Hello. So, here's a subject that's near and dear to my heart: the dreaded GMPC, or Games Master's Player Character, or DMPC if you're Dungeons and Dragons inclined. GMPCs are basically characters that the GM controls during a role-playing game, and they're basically another character that's part of the group. And this character could be one of their existing PCs that the GM plays, or is in other games, or it's a character that he's designed specifically for this game. And they come with both positives and negatives, although in my experience they are quite notorious, and I'm quite guilty of it as well, and I'll come to that in just a second. But a lot of the time these PCs are put in either for the GM to play, so that he feels like he's along with the team and part of the adventure with his own character, even though he knows what's coming, or they're there as just to fill out a party. Just, there might be a role that's missing, and you might chuck in a GMPC just to make up that role. But in my experience, GMPCs have been used for very, very different reasons. Now, originally they were used because we were playing a game in a Star Wars setting, and a lot of the characters that we were playing all knew each other, and because we're all taking turns at GMing Star Wars, just to keep that kind of atmosphere going of all these friends together having adventures, whoever was GMing at the time would usually use their own characters as a NPC, with the idea that they would then be moving on to the next game and carry on using that character as a player character. Now, as you can imagine, we were all quite young, we all wanted what was best out of the game, and we all wanted it to be on top. So yeah, it turned out into a bit of a disaster. So, and I mean, I was really guilty of it. So sometimes they'd get into situations and like the GMPC would save the day. So hooray for the GMPC, hooray for your special character. Or they would get a share of some really good equipment that you as the GM had put into the game. So it's a plus 10. It gives plus 4d to damage. How did that happen? Or who knows? I'm only running the game. And then the GM would then expect to use that equipment or use that experience in the next game. So it got used and abused quite a lot. There was also an ego thing about it as well, like my character's better than yours. So they would get into fights or into situations. Sometimes character on character, NPC on PC or GMPC on PC. And after a couple of fudged rolls, of course, the GMPC comes out on top because nobody's going to beat my character. Oh no, he's the best character I've ever created. Absolutely terrifying games. So whenever we started a game and somebody would go, "Oh, I'm going to use my PC as a GMPC in this game," or in walks my character, and you could feel the collective groan around the table. Oh no, what's he going to do now? We might as well just take a back seat and just let him win the day. I remember being in a game once, and the games master included his GMPC, and after after his GMPC had done something quite spectacular, he told us how we felt about him. So he's done this, and he's made this role, he's done this, this amazing thing, and you're really impressed. You're kind of in awe of this guy. Yeah, okay, if you say so. So yeah, in my experience, GMPCs have never been a good thing, but they can be a good thing because sometimes a GM has an old character which he's probably not going to play anymore, and he needs an NPC. So what better to use than a character that he already knows? As long as he's not precious about that character, as long as he's not precious about the NPC, about using him as an NPC, and the PC's not quite liking him, or at some point along the way he makes a mistake or gets killed. As long as he's not that precious about it, it's actually quite good because he's already put a lot of effort into that character. He's already done a lot of character creation. He's got the stats on the sheet, for God's sake. You know what I mean? That character's ready to go. And if he's never going to use him again, he's not that bothered about him, about what happens to him, he's not precious about it, then that could work out really, really well. Or the GM could create a PC type character, like I said earlier, to fill in the gaps. So, like, I've just started this D&D campaign, and if there was something missing, like a healer, I probably would have introduced a GMPC. So, well, basically it's an NPC but created like a PC, and introduced them as part of the group. And what I wouldn't do is have them make major decisions, and basically allow the group to tell them what to do and where to be and where to go. Because then they still then have complete control over the game, and I'm not there in the background pretending to be a player going, "We should do this." But I'm not going to do that because I know what's going to happen next in the game. So I'm either cheating, or and making out that my PC's dead clever and my GMPC's really clever, or I'm trying to drive the players into onto a certain route, or even into a trap. So what's to be trusted? So there's always that. So yeah. So in my experience, GMPCs have never really been a great thing. In fact, if you are new to gaming, or even if you're experienced games master, I'd really try to avoid them. Because even if you go in with the intention of saying, "Oh, this GMPC is not going to influence the game. I'm not going to play him up," you might subconsciously be doing that because you've got a very definitive idea of who this character is and what they're capable of and what you want to happen to them. So I wouldn't advise it. If you're gonna fill in a gap and you're gonna allow the PCs to technically control that character, then yeah, knock yourself out, go for it. I think that works really, really well, and it helps fill in the gaps. Especially if there's a gap in the group, a gap in the party, or somebody can't make it that week. You've got this spare character just to throw them in at a moment's notice for a little one shot or what have you. And that's something else I'll talk about people not turning up to games and cancellations and what to do in ongoing campaigns when somebody can't make it. That's something else I'll talk about. But yeah, in my experience, GMPCs are not a good thing. They've always been disruptive, and whenever they've been introduced into the game, yeah, and that's probably just my experience. That's probably just my experience and the experience of the people that I played with. They didn't want these characters in the game because the game isn't about the GMPC. It's about the PCs. It's about them. It's their adventure. So, and the GM's providing the adventure. It shouldn't be a part of it because, like I said before, the GM knows what's going on. He knows what's going to happen. So, making your character look smart and clever because they figured something out doesn't do that at all. Actually, it actually just really annoys the players around the table. Just give them time. If they don't figure it out, give them another avenue. But there you go. Anyway. That's the end of that one. Yeah, like I say, it's something close to my heart. I've had a lot of experience with, especially my early games of gaming, sort of late 80s, early 90s. GMPCs were prevalent throughout our games, and yeah, I do have a lot of regret. Sometimes it was cool, but most of the time it was bad. So you just got to be careful, play it by ear. So anyway, thanks for listening. Ta-ra.